in. Karibuni sana. We will get started at approximately 9 o'clock, but prior to that, if you could kindly complete the poll that has been posted online as we wait to get started. Thank you. Asanteni. Once again, thank you for all of those who are logging on. We are about to start in a couple of minutes, but prior to that, if you can kindly take part in the poll. I think it was taken down, but it might come back on again. The poll will also be shared again right at the end of the meeting. Asanteni sana. Yes, the poll is still active, so if you can kindly continue to do the online poll as we wait to start in the next couple of minutes. Thank you. Welcome everybody to our online event on youth participation in development processes in Tanzania. We're very excited to have you all on board with us this morning, and thank you for taking this time to log on early, and thank you for all of those who have already completed the poll. My name is Namwaka Omari. I'll be your moderator for the next 2-hour session, where we'll really want to dive deep into discussing why is it important to engage youth in the development processes, and also specifically budget processes, but just generally, why are we talking about the youth? We all know that the population of the youth since 1990 has more than doubled, and it is anticipated that by 2013, there'll be almost 15 million plus youth in Tanzania. This is a significant number. When you look at Zanzibar, I think almost 40% of the population is youth. It's important. So as we're talking about development and socioeconomic development of Tanzania, it's imperative to talk about this group. We cannot talk about sustainable development without talking about the youth. The youth is a stimulant, the youth is a trigger for innovation, for discussions about sustainable cities, climate change, etc. And this is why we're here today. So we really are looking forward to a very lively and active discussion. We'll have the live chat that is ongoing. So as you're listening to the presentations and the insights from our experts and from our panel, please share your questions, your comments, your observations on the chat, and we will be reading them throughout the next 2 hours and address them to the panelists and the presenters as you pose the questions. So really, we're encouraging a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion. So please do contribute and put in your comments, questions, observations in the chat. We're also, this session is also live on YouTube. So others can also follow us on YouTube. And of course, feel free to tweet and retweet things that you are hearing, good conversations and discussions that are taking place in this session today. The poll I see is still on. Participants will be requesting for you to take this very short poll. It literally takes 1 to 2 minutes as we are getting started. The format of today's webinar is really straightforward, and we're really wanting to leave room for you to have discussions and share your thoughts. We will have a very quick introduction from the organizers, Pilot for Research and Dialogue. We'll then dive straight into our keynote presentation. And after that, we'll have 4 very engaging, very dynamic youth to serve on the panel, to share their thoughts and insights on this issue. And as they do that, once again, we open it up to you, participants, to actively engage, ask questions, share your thoughts and insights as well as you're hearing the information from the presenters today. So with that, I would now like to invite Pascaline Gaborit to give us an introduction to Pilot for Research and Dialogue. Welcome, Pascaline.
Thank you very much, Namwaka. Thank you very much for inviting me to present this very shortly, the project Pilot for Research and Dialogue. I first would like to thank all the organizers and the project team, especially Professor Elise Perron, who's here also co-organizing this panel, and Donatolomi, who's also the partner, one of the partners of this project. So this event, the engagement of youth in future budgeting plans and programs, is part of a larger 2 years project, which is called Pilot for Research and Dialogue, and which is co-funded by the European Union with the support of Tanzania's Ministry of Finance and Planning. So what are the global objectives of this project? The first one is to promote dialogue on economic resources, policy, and fiscal governance in Tanzania. So this is one of the main objectives on the dialogue. And the second one is, on the longer run, to sustain this dialogue through the creation of a platform including public and private stakeholders in different regions. The other objectives are research, so to promote high quality and evidence-based research through the publication of studies, but also policy briefs, to strengthen debate among stakeholders from the public, private, and civil society sectors, to increase research capacity and expand network and connections among the organizations in charge of governance in Tanzania. So these are, in a snapshot and in a nutshell, the objectives and the subject objectives of this project, which is a short project, but very ambitious in this scope, which allows us to organize this consultation event. So this event is organized in relation with one of the studies which has been carried out by the Professor Joriga, Marcelina. This study is ongoing, but the policy brief on youth engagement in the budget process in Tanzania is already available online to this link. So do not hesitate to download it as it is directly in line with the consultation event organized today. The partners, maybe it's also interesting for you to know who are the partners of the project. The first one is Tampere University, Finland, who is the lead partner of this project, coordinating and managing the whole project. Pilot for Dev, which is a small think tank based in Brussels, working with international partners. IMED, Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship Development, which is located in Dar es Salaam. CAWI, which is actually a private company working on sustainable development. And very importantly, this project is co-funded by the European Union. So you have the opportunity, if you would like more information, and do not hesitate to contact us on Twitter, but also on our website. And as Namwaka has explained, we are really also pleased to have a YouTube channel to downstream this event. Thank you very much. And I wish you a very fruitful and insightful exchange.
Thank you very much, Pascaline, for that very concise explanation on who Pilot for Research and Dialogue is, what they do, and how they do it. As you have articulated very well, that it really is a platform for dialogue. I think dialogue really is at the heart of what you're promoting, nurturing debate, nurturing conversation. And this conversation is very important as you are pushing and promoting conversations to be had between public sector, private sector, as well as civil society organizations. And I think that is well represented and reflected in our participants today. I'm sure that everybody's coming from a diverse background. But you also talk about promoting high quality research and publishing high quality research, which is also key in terms of ensuring that what results are found do get disseminated, and potentially, of course, the ultimate goal is for implementation of recommendations, but also increasing the research capacity. I think this is something that we as Tanzanians appreciate, and we know the importance of this. So this project is indeed important. It is indeed timely, but also something important that you said is the partnerships. This is really the way forward, and you as a project are showing how to use partnerships to promote dialogue, but really it's promoting dialogue for sustainable development. So thank you very much, Pascaline. Before we get to our keynote speaker, I would like to call on Arif Fazel from ActionAid to just share the experiences of ActionAid within this sphere of working with youth. Karibu sana, Arif. Arif. I can see that he's there, but he's not unmuting. Arif, can you kindly unmute? Okay, I think that he's dropped off. It must be internet connectivity issues. And so as we, before we move to the keynote presentation. I think we just need a few minutes for the keynote presenter to get settled. I would like to call on one of the panelists to start sharing their experiences because our panelist is amazing. They're all youth, they're all very involved, very hands-on in terms of what in terms of what the work that they're doing and how they're engaging with fellow youth and the push for youth participation in development. So I would like to call on one of the panelists, Zildat, Wahid. If not Zildat, if Thekla is on, can you kindly unmute and give us your experiences and thoughts and recommendations on youth participation?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Zildat, we can hear you. Thank you. Karibu sana.
Okay. Asante. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As a fellow panelist, my name is Zildat Wahid Juma, and I'm here to present on the importance of involving youth in budgeting or engagement of youth in future budgeting plans and programs. So what I see, youth involvement is important since the involvement of youth may lead to development in all sectors that youth are involved. When we involve youth in budgeting, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Zildat. Please proceed.
Okay, it is important for them since they can lead to development. For example, youth may know themselves what they really want for their future development. So involving them in budgeting may increase the government revenue and even income from themselves. Nowadays, most of the youth are interested in entrepreneurship rather than being employed in government sectors. So involving them in budgeting may help the government to reduce the capacity of employment status in our country, as well as it can increase the good living standard of the youth and the society in general. Also, since youth know themselves, they know what they are mostly interested on. Since I am based in Zanzibar, I have most example in Zanzibar. For example, most of youth now involving men, they are interested in footballs and they know more about football and some sort of things like that. So when they think involved in budgeting, maybe we can have various youth with different fields and perspective and can do more on their fields since they are involved in budgeting.
Hello, Zildat.
Hello?
Hello, sorry, Zildat, you dropped off for a minute. So maybe if you can just repeat the last sentence that you were talking.
Oh, I was talking about youth themselves know what they want. So
Yes.
involving them in budgeting may increase the probability of them being employed since each youth is interested in his or her own field. For example, by myself, I am a graduate student of my bachelor degree in geography and environmental studies, but I have decided to start up my own NGO since I have seen that there's a problem of employment in my society. But if there could be a budget for us youth in each field that we study, most of us will bring development in our societies, as well as increase even our self-income level. That's all I have for now.
Thank you very much for that, for introducing us to some of the issues around youth and why it's important to involve youth in budgeting specifically, but also the ultimate end result is in the development of our country. You pointed to the link between youth and employment and unemployment. And I think that once we get to our keynote presenter, that issue will also come out more, the importance of youth employment and also in the discussions in unemployment. And also, you said something important in terms of the youth know themselves, that self-awareness. I think this is something that is really important for all of us working in the development space, to be aware that the youth really do know themselves and they know what is best for them. And so they have a voice that should be heard, in creating forums and spaces such as this by Pilot for Research and Dialogue gives opportunities to hear the voices of youth. I also, once again, we're still just giving a little bit of time for our keynote presenter to settle. As we wait, I would like to call on Kamala. I think most of us in Tanzania know of Kamala. I will introduce him formally when the formal panel starts, but for now, Kamala, karibu sana, I see that you are on. To just give us a snapshot as to some of the dynamics of youth in Tanzania. Karibu sana, Kamala.
Thank you so much, Nakanwa, for this introduction and for the, I think, for the best moderation. Good morning, everyone. The protocol are observed. And I think so. Basically, on the content in Tanzania, I think Tanzania is a community where we have a big number, or the group of young people is raising morning and evening, and we think in one time or other to have a national strategy on how to handle the big population which is growing. But also we should remember that having a big number of young people doesn't mean that they have the same mind, they have the same ideology, they have the same the way of thinking about development and the other issues. But then the other issue is how do you bring young people in to have a common goal, to have a common agenda in when they want to engage in a certain program. So in Tanzania, we have been working with young people to in a lot of areas. One is being to create different platforms where young people can participate as a part of giving out their voice. And that was to demand for the Tanzania National Youth Council, of which even the president, His Excellency Mama Samia, she had, during her speech, she ordered the government officials to look on the progress where the progress, where is the youth council, and how should we proceed on the progress where it was. So I think, to me, this gives an opportunity for young people to have their voice in decision making, but also have their voice in international affairs, but also to have a platform where they can decide. Because when you are preparing a community, you are preparing when you are preparing the young people, you are preparing the nation. Because look, with this big number of young people in the country, the young people, they are the machinery of the nation, because they are the ones providing, they are the human resource in the nation. and they are the machine because they're the workers of the nation. So with this big population, if you handle them carefully and if you give them the necessities, you are sure that the nation in the future will be progressive, because you have a big number of young people who can work, who can share the experience, who can share the knowledge, but they can engage in productive. But the second, with this big number of young people, when you are preparing the readers, because sometimes they say leaders are born, but sometimes leaders are born, sometimes leaders are mentored. You need to have the programs. For example, I like this program because somehow provide a platform for young people to exchange knowledge and experience, and shaping their future for the leadership careers. And we should not forget that being a leader doesn't mean that you stop on being appointed or being in a position, but you're just also sometime in the family, in the community where you are living, anywhere where you are a leader, because you can contribute in progressive of any development issues around the corner where you are living. So the formation of Tanzania National Youth Council, I think, in one way or other, this will be a platform that can enable young people to progress, but also to share. We have seen there is a lot of innovation comes out every now and then. There is a demand for fourth industrial revolution. People are discussing a lot about innovation and innovation in the country, but there is no harmonization platform where you can bring all of this and you bring all young people in Tanzania that these are the agendas of the nation and this is the space where you can participate from. So without National Youth Council, we found like ourselves, we are divided. Everyone has their own agenda, and at the end of the day, there is no way you can bring them all. I think I'll be sharing more on the topic, the engagement of youth in future plans and programs when times come. Asante sana.
Asante sana for that teaser, because I'll call it a teaser, for stimulating us to start to think about some key issues. Something that you said when you were discussing the youth is that the youth is not a uniform group. I think that's something also quite important for us to take note of. That it's not a homogeneous group that you all look the same, think the same, want the same things. So that, I think, is important for us to now think about in terms of what are the common areas? What are the things that you can do together? How do you form a common agenda? What are the things that are important for youth? And then how to move forward. And as you said, Kamala, you will be discussing more the specifics when we actually get to the formal panel. But I think it's important that you've started to tease us and make us think about the fact that, yes, even if we have very large numbers of youth as presented in the national statistic, and we know it, we see it, I think the median age for Tanzania's population is 18 years old, 18 to 19. So we have a very young population, and this is anticipated to grow. So as we're talking about youth engagement, as we're talking about youth participation, how exactly are we going to engage this very large number? Yes, as Kamala, you rightly said, very large number, but they're not the same. Different interests, different agendas, different goals, different dreams, different aspirations. So that, I think, is something that for all of us, once again, working in the development space, we can think about how now to engage the youth, because we really, when we talk about youth, we put it in a blanket way that is just youth. And then I think we put the age category. I think in Tanzania, it's officially 18 to 35. I can be corrected because I think sometimes depending on on who you're working with and who you're talking to, that varies, but usually it's between 18 to 35 is still considered youth in Tanzania. And this is quite a big age group and definitely not the same. So as we're talking about youth, as we're thinking about programs for youth, as we're thinking about projects for youth as well, how can we engage the youth, considering and being aware of the fact that they're not one homogeneous group? And I think the same was said years ago when we started talking about gender. Women are not the same. And I think the same applies for youth. I would like now to invite Thekla to start giving us her initial thoughts on this before the formal panel. Thekla, karibu sana.
Opportunity, and thank you very much for the organizers for having a very, very a nice way actually to collect youth ideas and also to unify youth with the decision makers and find out what is really going on in the ground. So once again, my name is Thekla Schulte. I work with FARAJA Africa Foundation. It is a youth-led organization focusing in policy advocacy, youth empowerment and economic empowerment, but as well as making sure that youth agendas in youth are involved in community development. So first of all, many congratulations to the speakers that passed, Kamala and Zildat. And I'm just going to add up before going to listen to the keynote speaker and really provide what I have on the table. I'll give out my experience according to where I'm working. As we have we have identified the gap between the government and youth implementation or youth involvement in these activities. And when you talk about how are we going to push youth agendas, how are youth going to get involved in one way or another in making sure that their activities or their problems or their challenges are really addressed, and how are they really going to be part in making sure that their activities are implemented and their challenges are solved, but at the same time, how are they going to contribute in the community? So in FARAJA Africa Foundation, normally we create a safe platform whereby youth from the regional level until the national level and East African level can actually interact and formulate and discuss and debate on their different challenges and write a petition and represent it to the speakers. So we work in a legislative arm, meaning the parliament, by having regional engagements and national engagements where we normally involve youth leaders because we believe youth leaders are the ones that really are able to talk and to know the different problems that are facing their youth in their communities. So the youth leaders can be corporate social society leaders, can be civil society leaders, can be the youth council, the arm of the youth council, can be any kind of leader that is in the community from the district level, regional level, coming up to the national level. So they try to write they try to debate, write on their challenges and petitions. And when we meet to the national level, we normally call it the Vijana Assembly, whereby we ask sometimes the speaker to come in, and because normally we host it in the Parliament of Tanzania. So the speaker will come in sometimes and listen, and we present the petitions to the speaker. At the same time, we also tend to practice what is happening in the Parliament by having a speaker and a clerk wearing the gowns and challenging and seconding the motions, giving out the motions until to the East African level. So my experience throughout this process, I came to understand that in a developing country like Tanzania, we normally have a youth badge. meaning that all activities that youth are really, if they're really getting involved, either directly or indirectly, most importantly, directly, they tend to bring meaningful outcome. So if they tend to involve themselves in conflicts, then in the country, they'll be perceiving it as a risk. But if they involve themselves as activities and in programs, then we call it as social cohesion or investment in the community. And involving youth in this kind of community development, budgeting, and all that, it makes sure that youth are feeling ownership of their country. They feel they own what they're actually doing, or they have ownership in their country, in the sense that at the end of the day, we come to find out that most of the developing activities, they're taken care of by the youth themselves, either voluntarily or even when they're getting paid, because they're actually involved in the grassroots level. Even in the society that we are living in, you come to find out, like, if you don't involve me from scratch and you just help me in the implementation process, youth tend to question the transparency of the government. Also, they tend to question on how exactly the money maybe is distributed, how the activities are taking place, who are handling these activities. They even tend to question if the youth themselves are not implementing it, how come, if an elder person is implementing the activities of youth, how can this person really know what is taking place or what is challenging the youth from the grassroots level? So coming from the human-centered perspective, if you really want an activity to really go through and being implemented and being taken care of nicely, you have to involve those people, exactly, the beneficiaries from the grassroots level. And that is what we as a country or individuals or youth, we are really making sure and pushing forward to really take place. So I came to find out by finishing or wrapping up in that area, that most of the things, people that are normally involving are either not youth or youth that are not really able to challenge, to question, or to really give out their critical thinking or analytical thinking of what is being kept in the table. So at the end of the day, it really brings negative results, not only to the individual or the youth, the beneficiaries, but even to the government. You come to find out the budget, maybe people are taking loans, they're not paying back. So it is a two-way thing when you don't involve the youth. In the government's perspective, the things are really not going to take place effectively because the beneficiaries are either not gaining from what is being kept on the table, or they don't really understand what they're supposed to do in order to bring out development. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thekla, for once again introducing us to some of the very practical examples that you've shared with us as to how and why it's important to engage the youth right from the get-go. As you said, this from the grassroots. So as, for example, for the budgeting process, as you said, rightly so, when something is said at the very end, and then that's when it's presented to youth, there is an air of suspicion around the process, which is really also speaks to the heart of why we're here today in terms of why is it important to engage the youth, but what you are now pointing to is the importance of engaging the youth right from the start. And I think that's also something else that for me, I've now put it into my little toolbox. First Kamala talked about the fact that youth is not a homogeneous group, but you're now talking about the importance of involving youth right from the beginning. And then I remember Zildat also pointed to the fact that more youth are looking to be, and they're going into entrepreneurship and business and self-employment as opposed to the formal routes of employment. So it's really challenging us all who work in development to change our mindset. And I think that is really what the three things that I am highlighting already from the three panelists who once again will speak after the keynote presentation. And kindly, when we start the formal panel, I'll also ask you to turn on the video when you're speaking as panelists, so that we can get to see who who these insights are coming from, but that's when we get the panel. The last of our panelists, who I'm also giving her a chance to give her initial thoughts on issues on youth engagement, youth participation in Tanzania, is Rahma. Rahma Mwita. So I'll also kindly ask Rahma to, for just a few minutes, to, like your fellow panelists have done, to start giving us a little bit of your thoughts and insights as to youth participation and engagement in Tanzania. Karibu, Rahma.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to the organizers. Thanks to the host. I'm really privileged to be here today. I will add into some issues, but some of the previous panelists have already touched into it, but we'll just expand on what they have just said. I think the public is important to be involved, because the government works better when the public is involved and has access to information, because there's a lot. We can take an example of a lot of issues that have been happening in our communities, like the issue of budgeting, for instance. The young people are maybe at the lowest people who participate. We can say, on my own observation, I can say the people at the villages have, the numbers are high compared to the young people who are living in the city, because back there they have these community village meetings where the communities and the society ask their leaders, they hold their leaders accountable. But when you come to the city center, the structure is different. Young people have a different setup, and so they lack this process to participate in these crucial processes. So it's important, and maybe we will touch later on how we can advance the mechanism to make sure youth are engaging in this processes, in the decision-making processes, but also the issue of the women. We're talking about young people, but also you see women and girls. The number of women and girls who participate in budgeting is very low. And this is because of what? This is because of the cultural, we can say. This is because of the perception which have been constructed in our communities, that politics is the sphere of men. So young girls who aspire to be in the spheres, sometimes they get to fear. Now we know the perception is shifting slowly, but still the number are rising day after day, because now we have a president who is female, and she's very strong and very powerful. But still, girls are not confident enough. I think one of the participants talked about self-awareness. Young people, are they aware? These young women, are they aware that they have a voice that can be needs to be spoken out? Because they say, if you're not on the table, you might be the menu and you won't know. So young people, if they're not on the table, there might be some issues which are discussed in which involve them in a high percentage, but they don't know because they are not there. But also later on, I'll come to touch on the issue of the quality of the engagement. Is it just enough when we say we engage young people, but their thoughts are not included in the final outcome that we see? That we do not need young people to be involved just to tick the box. We want quality involvement of young people. So maybe later on, I will dive deep into this. I would like to submit my contribution, my initial thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rahma. And once again, each panelist is coming with a very unique and different angle, and you've introduced us to something that is very critical and very important: the gender aspect as it pertains to youth, women and girls, young women and girls, the low numbers of participation. Some of the barriers as to why you pointed to the cultural barriers, very important for us in Tanzania. We to discuss and be honest about the barriers that are facing young girls. perceptions you talked about fear. I mean, these are really important things. You talked about confidence, and then linking it back to your fellow panelist who was talking about self-awareness, that the youth are very self-aware, but you also are questioning, so what level of self-awareness are youth at? So once again, completely relevant, completely telling of the importance of this dialogue here today, where we're all here today, and why it's important also. I mean, I think we're just seeing the diversity of opinions that are just coming out of the 4 panelists is truly reflective of the diversity that is in the whole youth population, which once again, one of the panelists already alluded to, that the youth are not the same. So thank you very much to all the 4 panelists. You will get to hear from them again after the keynote speaker, and once the keynote presenter has shared the presentation, there will be more questions, more insights, more room for reflection. I see people are already starting to comment on the chat. Please keep this coming. I'm seeing some comments, some thoughts, some reflections. I would like to ask for also more questions that we can also direct to the panelists, but also to the keynote after you hear the presentation. So now I would like to turn to our keynote presenter. Our keynote presenter today is somebody with very vast experience in development as a whole, but also in gender specifically and youth. We have Mariam Semfuko, who is a development economist, social protection specialist, working with the ILO for over 12 years. So you can just tell something, just for the 12 years with ILO, undoubtedly she has significant experience to share with us today. I'm very pleased to welcome Mariam. Karibu sana, Mariam.
Good morning, and thank you, Namwaka, for the invite. And wow, well, when you mentioned 12 years, I really didn't know that I've been in the ILO for that long. Well, with regards to the conversations, well, unfortunately, I was not available at the beginning, so I might be repeating some of the issues that the panelists, some of my panelists have already spoken about. We know that Africa is the youngest youngest continent, in the context that Africa has the youngest population from all the continents around. So when we talk about youth engagement, you know, we talk about a population that has very strong growth. Okay, now in terms of Tanzania, what I have seen is that we have a lot of youths who are engaged in so many forums, but I am unsure about the engagement in budgeting processes. The government has been instrumental in allocating from the local government aspect around 10% for funding for the youth and women. Well, we know that these funds are available for the youth, and yes, some of the youth have some restrictions to how the funds can be availed. And we know that most of the funds are availed through projects or groupings, you know. While it's a good initiative, we have a lot of the youth who are already, who are not able to access those funds, okay? And the engagement in budgeting process is crucial because, as one person said, engaging if you don't see the youth at the table, it means that their matters are not being spoken for. So in terms of budgeting processes, it's important to include the youth from the word go, from the planning stage, okay, to the inception stage, to the implementation stages. In terms of what are the youth priorities, only the youth themselves can be able to tell the government and other stakeholders what are the priorities that that are instrumental for their development. We cannot speak on their behalf, okay? And I don't know if I'm still considered youth at 42, but I will not speak on behalf of my young sisters and brothers. But I can say that unemployment is an issue that is one of the highest priorities for the youth. And this is a ticking time bomb. We've seen the unrest in a lot of countries, let's say Sudan, the revolts, you know, the Arab Springs. All these were caused because of youth unrest and unemployment. We have high unemployment, high youth unemployment rates. And it's not like the youth are not educated, they are educated, but there are no jobs. And even if the jobs are available, they are very little. And another thing is that they need skills. You find somebody out of a job, out from school, and you know, they need to employ for a job, and they're told that you need certain years of experience in order for you to get the job. So how are we going to, you know, assist the youth to get employment? I'm going to speak on employment because it's what I'm familiar with. And in terms of what ILO has been supporting, the government is doing is having microeconomic policies that address the youth unemployment challenges, okay? And we know that the biggest issue that we have currently is the skill gap. So we have people who are not just unemployed, but they do not have the certain skills. So we have a bureau that is called Skills and Employability Branch, okay? And it's a branch that conducts comparative researches and provides guidelines on technical assistance to help countries like Tanzania integrate skills development into the national strategies. So we've been conducting that. And we also have, if you've seen, Tanzania has launched in 2016, it's called an RPL, Recognition of Prior Learning. What they do, what we have assisted the government to do is that to assist, for example, people who have previous experiences, but they do not have certifications. So you can have people who have been working in garages, who've been working in the hotel sectors, you know, but they do not have the certification. So we put them in a training program that helps them to get certification for the skills. And these certificates are certificates that are recognized by the government and other employers. So it means they can get employment with those certificates. Another thing that we have is that we have quality apprenticeship programs in the hospitality sector, okay? So ILO supports apprentices and an alternative mode of skills training to help the young people to get into the labor market, to equip them with technical and core skills and competencies in the labor market today. And you know, it's not easy for people to get apprenticeship because even some of the organizations are not confident, but they're a little bit reluctant to have apprentices in their organization because of charges. They do not want to pay. So, and you know, to get a skill is really relevant for one to be able to get employment. So with this quality apprenticeship program, specifically in the hospitality sector, it has helped to get for the participants to get employment actually in some of these hotels that they have been they were set to get the apprenticeship skills from. And then we provide, you know, the impact of youth unemployment, okay, is that, wait, sorry, I'm reading through my, so we provided youth from low-income backgrounds with an alternative on the job training and employment opportunities. And we've shortened the often long school to work transition period for youth. We promoted collaboration between training institutions and employers, working with governments and social partners to design national apprenticeship guidelines, developed apprenticeship tools and training resources for training institutions and hotel partners. The success of apprenticeship programs has led the government to a full support endorsement of the National Apprenticeship Program. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. It is currently being conducted through the Ministry of Labor. And the success of the apprenticeship program has led to higher learning institutions developing Tanzania's first level degree of apprenticeship programs from the Institutes of Accountancy in Arusha. And we have had so many youth who were able to secure jobs after the apprenticeship programs in the hotel sectors. And maybe that's a brief synopsis of what I can share with at the moment. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. I have another engagement, but we also have UN joint program in Kigoma that focuses on youth and economic empowerment. Yeah, and it scales, it's a program that scales to agribusinesses in Kigoma. We've been at the site since 2017. Namwaka, over to you.
Thank you, Mariam, really for taking us now deeper into the issue of youth and specifically looking at youth and employment, which was mentioned by our first panelist when she started talking about some of the big issues in youth engagement and participation and the importance of talking about this. She pointed to the employment and unemployment issues. So thank you for introducing us to what ILO has been doing and continues to do in terms of skills development, apprenticeship programs that you pointed to. I think one, if I'm not mistaken, has also spans into Zanzibar, Mariam, if I'm correct, yes. I think that the apprenticeship program also spans into Zanzibar, and also there's a focus on young girls for that, if I remember seeing that somewhere. So it's important, and that also now speaks to what Rahma was talking about in terms of ensuring that there is also a gendered lens when we're talking about youth, and that boys and girls, young women and young men are also not the same. So it's very complex, as you rightly said. Africa is the youngest continent, but also our numbers just internally as Tanzania is very big. So thank you for sharing the recognition of prior learning initiatives. I mean, this is something that I think has been discussed all the way up to the national level. How do we acknowledge and recognize these other skills that individuals have, that young people have, that don't equate to a certificate from a formal learning institution? I think that really is what also ILO and the work that you're doing, you're trying to make sure that these skills that youth have are recognized, and they can, and you're finding a way to compare them and acknowledge them and get them certified without having to follow the formal process that we know in terms of primary, secondary, and then you go into institutes of higher learning, and then you get a degree, a diploma, etc. So thank you for that, and also sharing that there's a specific program in Kigoma. Before we go back to the panel, right at the beginning, I had called Arif from ActionAid, but there's a technical issue. If I could now call Arif works with ActionAid and deals and works directly in this area of youth. If I could just allow a few minutes for some initial thoughts and reflection before we now turn to the formal panel. So Mariam, thank you very much for your time. Asante sana.
Hello.
Hello, karibu Arif.
Asante sana. Good morning, everyone. My name is Arif Nurali Fazal. I work with ActionAid Tanzania as youth programs and global platform coordinator. I'm so happy to join you all here, and I just want to share in few minutes, just my experience on this budgeting processes, issues and everything, and the experience of ActionAid. So just starting with ActionAid. ActionAid, we have been engaging in a number of issues concerning budgeting processes in Tanzania by supporting our partners. And here today I will speak only to one partner, which is Tanzania Youth Vision Association. Since 2017, we have been supporting TYVA to conduct budgeting process activities so as to respond, to be gender responsive. So TYVA, we've been supporting them to do budget process activities by conducting activities in local areas to meet citizen and the LGA leaders, and yeah, to collect youth priorities and then share them with the parliament for budget allocation and for advocacy. So we have been also doing analysis. We have done analysis on budget through our partners, but also we as ActionAid have just recently launched a report from the research we just conducted on how the government is losing taxes. And as you know, budget is tax. One among the main sources of budget is tax. So we just made a research on how the government is losing tax, is losing a lot of money, a lot of tax. And we proposed several ways on how the government can collect tax and reach the goals they have set for their budget. So our experience in budgeting processes, it's of long time, and we've been supporting partners and by funding them to conduct activities which are aiming at advocating for allocation of budget which is gender responsive. That is ActionAid experience on budgeting process. But as an individual level, I have been engaging in a number of activities and initiatives which are aiming at doing budgeting processes. And just recently, we had let me just show this. Yes, so the problem in my engagement as individual level in this budgeting processes, you know, the budget process of Tanzania, it's bottom up. It starts from the LGA level, but the challenge is that people, especially these citizens at local level, at LGA level, they are not aware on this budgeting process and they are not participating. They are not participating because they are not aware on how the budget process in Tanzania is and how they can engage. And as you can see in my presentation here, which I shared, the budgeting process of Tanzania, how it, when does it start, who is engaged, when, every month. So now currently the budget process in Tanzania is at the President's Office, Regional Administration and Local Government. They are preparing procedures and documents on what will the budget of the financial year 2021-2022, what will be the priorities of government and focus area. So the citizens are or must be engaged from January to March at LGA level, where they are supposed to participate in local authority, local government meetings in their villages, in their streets, where they have to discuss on all the obstacles and opportunities from their areas, and then set priorities toward the coming budget. And that's how the budget process goes to the street level, village level, ward level, to the council level, to the district level, to the regional level, and to the ministry responsible for LGA, that is TAMISEMI. So the problem is that youth are not aware on this budgeting process and how they can participate so as to chip in their agendas, to chip in their issues, and to be allocated to the national budget. So I just wanted to share that brief on our experience as ActionAid as an individual level on budgeting processes and how youth are supposed to engage, and the gap. So here the gap is that awareness. People are not aware, especially those who are in rural areas, and many also who are in urban areas. They are not aware on the process. How is the process going, and how they must engage, at what process they must engage. And also we have done just a survey, and we have identified also some of the LGA leaders. Some of them are also not aware on these processes and how what is their role specific to this. They call it wenye viti wa vijiji. They are really not aware. So you might see only the watendaji wa kata, ward councils, are the ones setting the budget of their ward, but they are not engaging the village leaders to participate in creating the budget. So I just want to give that my few insights on this budgeting process. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arif. You really have touched on some of the main issues that are also coming up from the participants. I'd like to read two comments from participants who really speak to the issues that you raised. One participant says, making sure that the budget process platforms are developed from the ward level, which is exactly what you just presented to us in Asante, because you provided a diagrammatic representation of it, in terms of that this process really starts at the ward level, at the LGA level, and the importance of understanding this, and that the office is plural. This is critical. But you also, Arif, very well articulated that there's a very small window. It is only between January and March. So if youth are not aware of this, how then does participation start? So you actually speak and answered some of the issues that are being raised from participants in this. Because this participant said, yes, it has to start at the ward level to the national level, so that the equal opportunities provided to all levels of education to youth, including persons with disabilities. So once again, another angle, people with disabilities. But once again, we see the connections between what you have just said, what the panelists have said earlier, and also what our keynote speaker, Mariam, pointed to, in terms of now how then, in terms of when we're measuring education, how do we also capture the skill sets that are not in the formal setting? Another comment which is very important and really speaks, Arif, to what you have just presented to us, is one participant says that the national budget cycle is a highly technical exercise. And I think we're starting to see this, and Arif, you spoke to this. So let's not underestimate that. So the environment in which that exercise takes place is one of the most complex settings one can find in the entire nation, with competing interests, delicate balances, and also vested interest and political intrusion. So once again, we go back to some of the comments that came from Dickinson, Kamala, and Thekla. Direct youth engagement in that space, in that political sensitive arena, may be wishful thinking, but difficult. Maybe wishful, but difficult to realize the ambition. The desire to have youth more directly linking to and engaging that process is viable and justified, but how? I like that. And I think that really should be one of the key questions that we should then be asking ourselves. We're hearing the different challenges, we're hearing the different voices, but as Thekla mentioned as well, the process. Now, Ali has showed us the process. Dickinson, Kamala has showed us that the youth is not one solidified group. There are challenges in getting a common agenda. Rahma pointed to the gendered lens. How do we make sure that also women, and young girls are not left behind in this process? How do we also accommodate Zildat's observation that young people are not going to formal employment in the same way that we did or our parents did in the generation. So once again, thank you, Ari, for that very insightful, quick but very insightful presentation that really links us back to why we're here. Mariam, our keynote presenter, has requested to show us a short video of the apprenticeship program that she spoke about. And I think it'll be good for us to see an example of the work that she's talking about, also to infuse further our juices in stimulating our thinking about how really can we engage the youth. And I think the how should be our leading question. How do we engage youth? What strategies? I will continue to read some more comments, but as we wait, Mariam, if you're ready, Karibu to share your screen to show us the video. Karibu sana, Mariam.
Thank you, Namwaka. Have you given me access? Or I can just share?
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can share.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I think I'm definitely a BBC that's born before computers. How do you have the presentation with you? Namwaka,
yes, the presentation that you had shared with us.
Yes, if you go to the PPT number 8, you can showcase that.
Okay, I'm hoping that my colleague Bram can help me with this. But as we're getting that set up, I would like to read a couple more comments from participants. We have been the national youth policy, the official youth policy states that the age of youth is indeed 18 to 35. So once again, we see that this is quite a large spread, but 18 to 35 is what is formally recognized in Tanzania as youth. One participant said that awareness of the various programs and projects undertaken in the councils by the government is important. Once again, this links back to Arif and the panelist presentations initially, who touched about the level of awareness. And awareness, once again, is a very broad concept, but how much is really known as to specifically the budget processes, but also just how the development process as a whole is in Tanzania. And so if there's awareness, the youth will have space to hold the decision makers, implementers accountable for the expected outcomes. So this is something that one of our participants has pointed to, the importance of making sure that awareness is there. Another participant points to having clear and transparent monitoring tools. And they believe that this can lead to effective, efficient, gender inclusive, which can provide clear information through theory of change. So once again, this is very technical, bringing the theory of change. So here with the theory of change, it means that at whether it's an individual level, it's a project level, it's a program level, it's an organization, institutional level, you have to test your assumptions. How are you thinking about youth engagement? And I think these are those fundamental assumptions which then will direct how projects and programs go along. So linking here, for example, with what Rahma pointed to, are there considerations for young girls and women in your big theory of change? So once again, this is linking once again to the bigger conversations that you're having. One participant specifically spoke, Janet Chapman, chair of Tanzania Development Trust and founder of Crowds to Map, would like to know how youth in the regions where we work, such as Kigoma, Kagera, and Mara, can get involved in this project, and whether you have any engagement with youth mappers, a student running mapping groups in different universities in Tanzania. And I think there was a link that was shared by Janet as to, and the example was given from Kenya. So for those who are interested in finding out more about youth mappers, there is a link in the public chat that you can go to see the mapping groups and how they could help with participatory budgeting. And there's an example given from Kenya. Another participant points to that we need a digested budget format, user-friendly to youth, and that this can bring a more practical, innovative ideas from youth. So once again, we're seeing that our ideas and things that are coming up in this discussion today are really tying in. When this participant talks about a digested budget format, it echoes what Arif and Thekla have spoken about, the complexities of the budget process. With that, I think it's on. I see the let's hear the voices. So I will now turn and allow the video to show. Karibu sana.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
In our college, apart from offering a regular program, we also have an apprenticeship program, which we find this to be a very special program to our college, because this program has been accepted by the industry because we are producing students who have more quality in terms of more skills, because students will spend more time in workplaces than at the college. That's how the course is structured. While the other courses we're offering, which are regular, students will spend more time at the college and less time in practical attachment that is at the industry. So we feel like we need to embrace this program more, and even in future to have more students joining for apprenticeship program and phase out the regular program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam, for sharing that with us. And I think it gives a visual representation of the work that you're doing at ILO, and gives participants a chance to really hear the voices from those who have taken part in the program. So asante sana. One comment that has just stuck me, and I think we should also take this on board as we now go to the formal panel. Well, I'll be recalling our panelists. A participant says that, as we know, the budget in Tanzania cannot be approved without budget allocations for the special groups, that is youth, women, and disabled. This is true. I think we all know that this is true. There is that acknowledgement, and that there must always be that allocation. But once again, is this enough? I'm posing now that question to the experts who are yourselves. Is this enough? But I think that this comment to me is like the exact type of challenge that I think we need as we're talking about youth participation and engagement and the budget process and development as a whole. Yes, Tanzania as a country, we have committed, and we have said that we cannot pass the budget without having these special groups accounted for or included. Is this enough? With that, let me now once again turn to our formal panel. And I would like to now formally introduce Zildat Wahid, who is a young youth activist, very passionate about the environment, to the point that she started her own NGO, started ENVIDEC, short for Environmental Development for Communities, with the aim of involving more youth in environmental affairs, so as to create a society that cares for the environment, and to also serve as a catalyst for sustainable development. She has received numerous awards in her work, notably awarded as the winner of the Tanzania Emerging Young Youth Awards in 2021 in the environmental conservation category. So once again, Zildat, karibu sana, and if you could kindly put on your video so we can see you, we'll appreciate it. Asante sana and karibu, Zildat.
Hello again, thank you. It was really a nice experience for me to gain by receiving different people. I'm so much impressed, and thank you. But I have nothing additionally, since I've learned a lot and I've contributed my ideas. But lastly, I can just say that youth really feel considered when they be involved in big things like this, like budgeting and other stuff. So we, as part of youth, feel good, and we need to be considered in each step of development. That's all I have to say.
Asante sana, Zildat, for stepping back in and sharing your thoughts and insight. I would now like to re-invite back to share more of his experience, because he definitely has a lot more to share, to say with us. I'd like to call back Dickinson Kalama, who is a Tanzanian but a Pan-African youth leader and an East African youth champion on integration and one East African state. He advocates for better youth policies in Tanzania and the EAC, the East African Community, and also works hard to ensure that Africa is moving to the next level. He is currently the chair of SADC Youth Parliamentary Committee. He's also sits on Pan-African Youth. He's also a Pan-African Youth Leader, a Global Youth Ambassador, a Peace Ambassador, and a Sustainable Goals Ambassador. He represents Tanzania youth in various forums, both nationally, regionally, and internationally, and he holds leadership positions on several youth organizations. So with that, I would like to reintroduce back Dixon Kalama to continue where he left off, but also now pick up from all the conversations and insights and information that we have heard in the past hour to give us more flavor as to how we can actively engage youth in Tanzania. Karibu sana, Dixon. Hello, Dixon. Okay, Dixon may have we may have temporarily lost him. So as we wait for Dixon to reconnect, I would like to once again revisit. Hello, Dixon.
Hello.
Okay, pole, karibu.
Asante.
Can you also share your switch on? Oh, thank you, the video. Asante.
Yeah. I don't know if it's okay. It's okay there. I think this debate or dialogue is very important because I have realized that I've seen from development partners, the people working in the government, the young people, the activists, and everyone is interesting, especially to see how young people can participate in the budget, but also the budget which creates the plan and programs that we are implementing. And what is very important, I remember one day Mwalimu Nyerere said, development should be people-centered. From Mwalimu Nyerere perspective, as I quote, that development should be people-centered, we need to understand the fact that when you have the people, they're involving in development progress, you are sure that every step of development, they will be participating because they own their progress and they own the process. So today, for example, if we are talking about young people to participate in plan and programs, we should know how the priorities are set, how the programs are implemented. And we have, most of the time we have realized when there is parliamentary session, I used to listen sometime when members of parliament, they are complaining that during the debate, we brought the agendas here and we asked some money to go to different projects. But at last, when you are coming to another part of the debate, you found that the little money was dispersed to the development projects, of which is the other question that brings the notion on how, even though people can be engaging in the oral process of budget and everything, but is there really a lot of money that will be dispersed to the programs or the project that want to be developed? So that is the other issue. I don't want to go deeper on that, but I want to remain on how we can engage young people. So to me, I think I should focus on development as in the 2 or 3 causes. Today, I've listened to the representative from IRO and other organizations, Action Aid and other organizations, speaking about the challenge we have currently on the projects and how to mentor young people to participate in the project. But mine remain on the same, that if you have a big number of young people in a country and you want the progressive development in the country, you need to create an agenda where young people can participate and can be part and parcel of the development within the nation. So how are we creating the agenda, or how are we bringing the young people to be at the table and make sure that they are owning the process, or they are the part of the progress? I think we need to create more visible young people groups that they can learn on how the budget process is, how the projects are implemented, and how they can supervise the project to make sure that the money disbursed in the project are well utilized and they are there to serve the interests of the people. I went one time in Geita, and there was the project funded by the I think it was the GGM Mines. They funded a certain project, and after under corporate social responsibility, and after people were not taking ownership of the project. When I ask some of the fellow young people, like, why is the project is not well implemented? Why are you not taking part of the project? Why? They told me, like, we are not part of the project because this project belongs to the mines. It's not our project. So that's give me a notion that when they were setting the priorities in that area, people were not involved. And that's where we need to acknowledge that we need to involve young people in plans and know the programs. Because if you bring young people at the table and they understand that this is the national direction, this is where we want to go, here is where young people are going to participate, you will be sure that in one way or other, they will take responsibility. They will be accountable of what's going to happen. But without that, it's a challenge, because even if we have seen that the progress of creating the budget started to the bottom, going up, but I can assure you, most of the time we are visited in the villages. There is the local laws that they direct one on how the local government should publish the expenditure and collection and expenditure after every 3 months. But if you just go in most of the local councils in the villages, you will know, people, they will tell you that we are now in third year. We never, what did the village collected? What are the expenditures and how the government is been running? So if even in the stage of the village, they can't be able to do that, which means even people are not engaged when they are collecting or when they are engaging in the views. And that's why we have seen in most of the time, when you go to the budget, to CAG report, I've seen sometimes in the CAG report, is complaining of misallocation of the budget funds to other projects. But that's tell you that when they were creating the priorities, people are not involved. So the money was allocated to build the bridge, but when it goes to the certain area, they will tell you, no, the bridge is not our priority. We need a pharmacy here, or we need a school. So they need to again to reallocate the money from the budget to other area. And this shows you that people in one time or other, they are not engaged, but they engaged in the planning and setting agenda to make sure that they are part and parcel of the programs and the plans. But also the other point I think is on the creating the policies that they can be implemented. If you have a community that they are the ones they are the ones every now and then bringing correcting and showing up the way that we need to have 1, 2, 3 in our community, or we are demanding for a certain something. If you create a policy out of what they were demanding as a way to give them the platform to solve that challenge, that policy will be easier implemented. If young people, they are not part and parcel, or the community, they are not part and parcel on creating of some of the policies, at the end of the day, you will realize that those policies are implementable because the community is not aware about it. So the engagement of young people in the plans and the programs, to me, I think it should start from the family level, going to the local council, going to the district, regional, and at the national level. I've sometimes visited in the Scandinavian countries. If you just go to Scandinavian countries, when they're going out, the father or the mother is distributing the money to the kids. Everyone will have his own money. And if you just go to buy anything, you are paying from your own pocket. That shows that you are responsible for the money you have, of which in the future, I think it creates the generation that understands the value of money, but also how to make the plans, how to make the budget, and how to do things different from our community, where sometimes when you want to go to school, you will just write on the paper, and the mom, she's going to do a shopping for you, and they will take you to the school, and you just give the money to the patron or matron, and the matron will be the one to say, just take this little money until you are the close of the term. But the impact, we have seen them sometime when these young people join the universities, you will see the wonders the first day when they get boom, because they have no plans. So they are spending a lot of money. They'll just go buy subwoofer, music, and at the end of the day, you find like, okay, you had a boom. The government were providing you with money. What did your money done at the end of the day? So it's very important for young people to participate, engage in their future plans and programs, but we need to create the vibrant young community that they feel the sense that before I go to the village council to participate in the programs or to demand, but I myself, am I in the position to make progress or to challenge myself in my plans? Because sometimes we think that the nation starts somewhere, but we the people, we are the nation, we are the country. So if our plans are poor, you do not expect that the nation is going to have the better plans, because today we young people today, we're here, tomorrow we'll be in the decision-making bodies as members of parliament, as policymakers, in the other stages of implementing the budget and plans. So if we are not aware on how these things moves on, at the end of the day, we want to achieve what we want to do. So at the end, I'm calling upon for the development partners and for the government, youth stakeholders, young people themselves to keep on having the dialogue on how young people should participate in the budget process, And it's very crucial and it's very important, because when you have the big number of young people in a country where you want them to be part and parcel of development, if you won't have their voice, if you won't engage them in the process, in one way or other, you are going to fail, because they won't take ownership of the plans and budgets and the project implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dickinson, for once again diving deeper, sharing your experiences, but also providing us with concrete recommendations and a few maybe implementable steps that can be taken forward. One, you said we need more young people or youth groups. I think here you're starting to talk about the how. And here, I would like to also marry this with a comment from a participant who said that youth can be brought together through the community development department at the local government level. This department is the task to formulate and register these groups. So once again, this comment, very timely, asante sana, but it speaks and supports what Dickinson is proposing, that we need, maybe as a starting point, we need to have more youth groups or young people-led groups organized. And so thank you for already providing a way in which this can start, pointing to the Community Development Department. Two, you also talked about awareness once again, so that people know how and when to engage. Here you talk about the importance of the awareness and knowledge from the planning stage. And this, I'm putting this together with one of your other, I think, recommendation that I've noted is that we also need to have a change in mindsets. You gave an example of how when young children are not taught the importance of planning and setting priorities, this is reflected in what you have seen most likely from colleagues and friends at the university level. So here you're talking about also the changing in mindset, which really starts from how we raise our very young children at the family level, to the community level, and this goes all the way up to the national level in terms of the importance of planning. And the budget process starts with planning. So that's also another recommendation. You also talked about creating implementable policies. I thought was important. And finally, you speak about the need for more dialogue. And once again, we tie this to why we're here today. We tie this to the work that Pilot for Research and Dialogue is working to promote and nurturing dialogue and calling for active discussions between people from the public sector, from the private sector, from the NGO CSO sector. So you really speak well to the spirit of this conversation that we're having today. So thank you very much, Dickinson. I would now like to turn to Thekla again and call her to give us some more thoughts based on all that she's heard today and from her experience. Thekla, as she pointed out earlier, currently works with the FARAJA African Foundation as a country coordinator and a project officer for East African Youth Parliament. FARAJA Africa Foundation is an NGO operating in East African member states, and it aims to amplify youth voices through a well-defined process of advocacy while practicing their parliamentary techniques to debate, write petitions, and present them to the East African legislative speaker for implementation of the discussed petitions. So once again, rightly on the panel, bringing practical experience from her work with the East African Youth Parliament. Once again, Thekla, karibu sana.
Well, thank you once again. I don't know if you can see me. Can you guys see me? Okay.
Thekla, we can't hear you. Sorry, Thekla, you're breaking up. Hello, Thekla. Okay, maybe as we wait for Thekla maybe to find a better location, because sometimes it could just mean me moving to another part of, or whether it's an office or wherever you're sitting. I would like to call our final panelist who also spoke earlier, Rahma Mwita. Rahma is a founder and executive director of Open Youth Opportunities in Tanzania. Her background is in political science, and she's a media personnel, alumni of Africa Media, representing training in Turkey. She is a young Sustainable Development Goals champion. And in 2013, she was among the founders and Secretary General of Youth Climate Network. She's a pioneer of SDG, Sustainable Development. This was something that she was awarded in 2018. So karibu sana Rahma, to share your additional thoughts after all that you have heard from the session this morning. Karibu sana Rahma.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for quite good introduction. Okay, speaking about, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Rahma,
Okay.
very clearly. Asante.
Thank you. I will touch on basically main 3 issues. So if I add into that, you're gonna help me, you're gonna remind me. First of all, let's go through the process of budgeting in Tanzania. So budgeting have 4 processes. And the first one is the creation, uundaji wa mpango. Like this goes from August until March. Here, lots of major actors are being involved. I spoke earlier on why we see that youth from rural areas are the one who are participating in this more than the youth in the urban areas. And this is because this system was created years ago. Now there's few, like where we're going, there's the status of the villages are rising. Now we have fewer villages. So in the villages, people are still getting the privilege to attend the village meetings. If you ask a young person in Dar es Salaam, when is the last time where he or she participated in the village meeting or ward meetings or street meetings, she will tell you she has never or he has never participated in that. And why is that? Because the settings was for villages back in the days. So we need to recreate those platforms that they will be suited for urban areas, because we are not giving proper chance for youth in the urban settings to participate in these platforms. So when you check on the issue of CAG reports, we see a lot of corruption, but a young person does not know where to go and hold their leaders accountable. Where we're ending in social medias. That's where we end in giving our thoughts. But what are we doing in our community level? Nothing, because we don't know where to go and give out our thoughts. So in the social media, the platform is wide. We're given a platform, but are those thoughts being taken? Because it's like we're giving constructive perspective and perception, but in a wrong area. We could have been starting in our community area, in our streets, in our wards, but where are the platforms? There's these meetings are being held every 3 months, but how are they advocating for young people to participate? Young people will say they don't know, but actually because they haven't looked for the information. So there's a gap. The gap between where do you link a youth with government? I think on how now we can improve the proper participation of young people participating in the budgeting process is connecting these two people. The government have information, the youth are not getting the information. So that was the first thing. But also, I spoke later on. I touched on the level and the quality of participation of young people. We want to go beyond the attendance. And how are we going to go beyond the attendance? Because we don't just want young people to be at the table. We want them to be at the table and be able to contribute, to question, to criticize, and to give out constructive comments. And how will they be able to do that? They will be able to do that if they will be given a chance. I think sometimes youth are they're being invited to certain consultation meetings, to certain assemblies, to certain seminars, just because they want youth to be there. Just because there's a prerequisite that have been made that we want young people to be involved, but how are they being involved? That also raises another question. So youth need to be given information. Like we need open information. We need government information on certain miradi. I don't know how to say that in English, but we need those informations. We need to be able to know where we're going to a certain meeting. What is it going to be discussed there? Because you don't just call a meeting with youth and you say all you have to say, and they don't get a chance to say or to talk anything, because you did not give them a glimpse of what you're going to say in that meeting. So the information needs to be there in order for meetings to be constructive, to be a win-win. We don't just go to sit in the meeting and it's going to be a win for the one who called the meeting and a lose for the youth. But also a second information, which is also my second point, which also links to the first one, is access to information. I believe access to information improves the quality of participation. This is what I was just saying. Attending, it's not enough. What are these people going to speak on that meeting? That is what's going to determine the quality of the meeting. Because when you give a young person a platform and he has nothing to say, he has prior information, this makes young people be looked at. They don't know what they want. They don't have priorities. They're not organized. These people do not know where they're going. They have no direction. They're hopeless and all that. Because of what? Because you did not give them proper information, enough information. So in order to avoid and to remove this perception of young people being disorganized, young people not being united, young people not being able to give out constructive criticism, rather than they're seen like the people who are just blaming, information needs to be there. You're talking about young people not participating in the budgeting. Previous speakers spoke about the languages in the budgeting. The language attracts these young people. I did simple one. We're talking about CAG reports. These reports, are they in the simple language that's going to be understood by anyone? Because in the community, when you talk about youth, they're diverse. We're not talking about all youth who have been in formal education. There are people who have been in formal education. There are people who have not studied at all. All of them, they're youth, and they deserve a chance to contribute in their country. That's also another thing. But also on the third point is to create a greater awareness. And this involves setting up national platforms such as websites, we're talking about social media platforms. You can see, I don't know, we talked about this most of the time. We raised our voices in this issue most of the time. Like you find the ministry which works on youth does not have an active account on social media, and they know 50 or more than 50% of young people are on the social medias. And this ministry have no active account. They can't have an account, but is it active? They can't have a website, but is it active that gives information to young people? Now the world is changing. We are going digital. What are they? Are they fast enough to grab this chance in order to bring young people closer to this ministry, which works for young people? So this is also a challenge. And on how we can improve by creating these digital platforms and improving the situation there. Because when we do that, we will see how many young people will be will be awakened and will be inspired to participate in these issues, because they have something that is so easy, like it's closer to them. It's not like you're hard, because people feel like you need to be educated to contribute. That's why we see it's the faces of young people who are raising the voices. It's the same every day, because other people, they feel like this is not our space. It's like the space of educated. No, every young person deserves to be in these platforms. But how are you creating these platforms to be closer to these young people? This is also something we can work on. But also, I talked about making the language less technical, and we talked about this we have to make sure in most of our public informations, they are less technical. And this we talked about can include laws, regulations. It includes budgeting, CAG reports that include Miradi in our community levels, the reports, because we see this incidents happen like 2 weeks ago. And the leader wants to do ukaguzi. I don't know, I'm just confusing here the language. And they find the building that was supposed to be opened by the leader that did not match the money that has been used. But that was the highest stage. If the young people were active in that area, they could have long time raised that issue, because we see in other regions people raise issues on the issue of schools, hospitals. They raise issue when they see something is not right in those projects. So when the community is sensitized, when the community is much aware, they speak and they help a lot in community development in this project that has been doing. But in the conclusion, I think the founding father of community, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, once said, if real development is to take place, the people have to be involved. And I'm adding to that, involvement is not just enough. We need to go beyond involvement. Thank you very, very much.
Excellent, Rahma. Asante sana. And you are very well understood. Don't worry about mixing languages. I think we all understood where you're going and where you're coming from. So asante sana and thank you. Well done. Both yourself and Dixon pointed and reminding us of the words of our founding father, Mwalimu Nyerere. I think this is really important to understand that development has to be people-centered and people-led. I think that is undisputed, and we all must remind ourselves of that. You really have brought home some key issues that tie in, I believe, all of the discussion that we've had today. You talk about, once again, the importance of planning. You spoke also of the small window. You spoke about the difference between rural and urban youth. I think that's also a whole different angle that we haven't touched on today. But once again, thank you for introducing us, for us to also understand that there's a difference between urban and rural youth and their level of participation, their levels of access. You talk about making information not only accessible, but user-friendly. In terms of the language, you gave example of the CAG, the Control Auditor General reports. Excellent. And that also ties in with what all the other participants have said during the course of this event, that this is very complex. It's a very technical exercise. And so it just needs to be digestible. It needs to be unpacked in a way that is user-friendly and can be understood. But once again, as all have said, understood at so many different levels, because we have a gendered lens, we have a rural urban lens, and even within the youth group, 18 to 35, very broad, different interests. How do you set the common agenda? You also spoke about the level and quality of participation. I really like that. And I think we also should note of that. It should not just be a token acknowledgement of youth, but it should be a meaningful engagement. This, once again, I think speaks to the comment that was raised by one participant that, well, our national budgets in Tanzania cannot be approved without budget allocations for special groups, including youth, women, and people living with disabilities. Yes, but is it token? Is it really meaningful? And I think Rahma challenges this by saying that so far, a lot of the engagement with youth has not been of a quality engagement. Awareness, once again, has come out throughout as importance, but also the building of national platforms, and for us as practitioners, but also for the government to understand how best to engage youth. You specifically brought in the issue of technology. You specifically brought in the issue of social media and using digital platforms. This is an area where more needs to be done, and dialogue as well, as we're here today. So Rahma, you really pointed out and have tied in today's discussions and almost concluded for us very well in terms of some of these key issues that you have raised. And I would like to also conclude by reading another comment from a participant who said, the creation and strengthening of meaningful networks of youth, rather than the promotion of just young individuals at isolated representative positions, which once again, this speaks to what Rahma you're pointing to, will have a better chance of growing a new generation of future policymakers and policy implementers. With that, I think it really sums up what Rahma was saying in terms of having meaningful conversation, making sure that the youth on the table is not just a token, or it's not just individuals who are, whether well known, have access, but rather creating these platforms, creating meaningful networks. So this I felt really did well and is serving well to tie in some of the conversations and issues that have been raised today. And another participant also, the same participant, but tied it back with when they were talking about the community development department, that's the one responsible at the local government level, further emphasized that the community development offices. So at the community development department at the LGA level, local government level, there are community development officers who it is their task to educate youth with all budget and plans at the district level. So here we're also getting possible entry points. We're hearing recommendations as to how we can engage youth. Yes, create more platforms, but there also maybe there's a space to use the government machinery that is already in place at the local government level as a possible entry point. But once again, as Rahma rightly warned, there's still the rural-urban divide. This may work and is working, or may work better at the rural area, but may not translate very well to the urban setting. So once again, a lot of food for thought. We're really nearing the end of our session today. I must thank everybody for being with us and for being very active in the participation in terms of the comments. They have been very insightful. I apologies if I have missed anybody's comments. I think I tried to capture the ones that were really tying in well with the discussion, and I believe that we're seeing the links and the connections and the relevance of why we should but continue and have more of such meaningful dialogues as this platform created by Pilot for Research and Dialogue. And with that, I would like to call Dr. Barney Laseko to give us final thoughts, final words from the organizers before we wrap up and ask participants to take the poll for those who had not done that. But also, before that, sorry, Dr. Barney. Dr. Barney, I have seen that Thekla is back. We had lost her. So if I can give Thekla 1 minute to give us her final thoughts, and also our keynote presenter to give her final thoughts. And then I'll come back to you, Dr. Barney. Pole sana.
Okay, thank you.
Thekla karibu.
Okay, thank you very much. I think when I put on my video, it goes ups and down, like
Yes, usually karibu.
I think Rahma and Kamala has said a lot, but I'll just chip in on one of two things that I think I can be of help. So as I said earlier, youth are like assets in the community. But one thing that lots of people, or the government or whatever, they expect. That's the very vivid thing that is out there. And for that reason, they fail to really involve them in developing matters, because one way or another, they feel these youth can come up and be strong enough, maybe take over the government. So the problem, where exactly is the problem? The problem is not the issue of not involving youth in developing issues, especially in the issues of budgeting and programming issues, doesn't give youth the ability of becoming citizens or owning the problems in their countries, in a sense that they don't really practice these things from the grassroots, or they don't implement it. Some of those are practiced in the budgeting process. They feel in one way or another, those that practice the budgeting process, they actually, most of them, then they don't, are not well educated, or they're not critically thinking or analytical when you talk about people in the rural areas. But also people that are elites that can really practice in these issues, they feel that there is nothing that I can get it from it. They feel there is no impact coming from practicing or planning, being involved in the planning stage from in the planning stage of these issues. So you come to think about those people that can be youth themselves are not in practicing these issues. They're not participating in the budgeting process because they don't see the impact coming from the whole process. So I think the government should come up with briefing up very good training, education and training in the whole process. How is it going to be implemented? When? Why are they involved? And actually categorize these issues in a very, very small or segments, and know where. If we can find them in rural areas, how can we engage them? So they should invest more in how they can really invest more in the ways and means they can really involve these youth. But at the same time, I'm going very fast, but at the same time, I think, as I said earlier, this is a two-way thing. If you don't involve the youth today, it doesn't only come on what the youth cannot implement, the policies, or they cannot cater on the issues that are surrounding them, but it also comes in the laws in the government. For instance, when you don't involve them in the issues of planning and giving loans, how are these loans going to take place? How are they're supposed to, who are eligible, who are not eligible, if they're entrepreneurs and they don't understand well of how to keep their business, how can you involve the youth that actually, maybe in one way or another, seniors in the way they understand about entrepreneurship, so they can train these ones. When they take the loans, they can know how to actually return the loans to the government. So it comes in two-way things. It brings loss to the government if the development process doesn't take place. And at the same time, it gives discouragement to youth, and they concentrate in their individual self-sustainability rather than the community development. So I think I'll just chip in that kind of ways and manner. And one of the most effective and important example I can give out is the CAG report that came in 2019 and 2020, where we find out 89% of the budget that was allocated to the district, it was seen that it was not even given back. The community or the youth themselves, they didn't return the money. Why? Maybe their businesses collapsed. Maybe they didn't find means and proper ways to how to bring sustainability to these the money that they got as a loan. So I feel like there's a need to involve youth in all areas, to know where they are. How can we get them? In which length can we go extra miles? The government should really, really invest in the issues of effectiveness rather than efficiency. But at the same time, other NGOs, community development organizations, civil society organizations, and donor countries should really participate in one way or another, making sure to know these youth, the leaders of these youth, or not the leaders, but how can they really chip in and contribute to help the government in involving the youth in the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thekla. And once again, you were right in line with Rahma's talking and thinking, but I think important to note is something that you said about the fear and the air of suspicion and fear that is around the youth. That's also something that's very important for us to note. But also my key take home and the phrase, and I'll really take a phrase that directly from you pointed the fact that if the youth basically left behind and not part of the process, they do not become citizens of the country. I mean, I'm linking now this back to both Dickinson and Rahma's linking to Mwalimu Nyerere that we need a people-centered, people-led. And so if the youth are not being involved and then they're not feeling and living like citizens, we're missing a critical group. But once again, to conclude, you talked about the government, the need to invest in more ways and means of engaging youth. Here you're echoing Rahma completely in terms of knowing how to reach the youth and really putting in more resources and time to understand youth engagement in a meaningful and effective way, and not just as a token. So thank you very much. I would like to now welcome our keynote speaker, Mariam, to give us her final words. Karibu sana, Mariam.
Asante, thank you. I think the discussion has been very lively, and congratulations to all the youth. As you can see, I think we heard from many of the youth, they do have a voice, they know their priorities, they know what they want, and it's very important to include them in all aspects of development. There's one thing that I wanted maybe to highlight or maybe to kind of refresh is that, you know, a budget is a political tool, okay? So in order for the budget to contain provisions that are youth-centered, you know, we need to ensure that we have youth representatives in the parliament. I think we do have those youth representatives in the parliament carry the banner of youth priorities. And we need to take into considerations that not all youth are the same. The youth are heterogeneous. They have different needs, different priorities. And in order for those needs to be met, we need to ensure that the youth are politically engaged. Budget is a political tool, okay? Whether we like it or not, it is a political tool. So the youth need to also have political stance in ensuring that they participate fully in these processes. And another thing is that to ensure that, you know, youth, you should not succumb to being invited to rubber stamp projects. You know, do not go into meetings or trainings or projects just for you to be a rubber stamp to the project. I think Rahma correctly said that, you know, youth are invited maybe just because it was one of the priorities of the donor. But if you are there, make sure to ask, how has this project considered youth? How were they engaged? How inclusive is this for the young women and for the young men? Is it inclusive in terms of, you know, urbanization, you know, ruralization? How have youth been engaged? So when you go to these meetings, please ask questions. How have the youth been engaged? Don't go there to just rubber stamps, you know, to be a rubber stamp and get your per diem and go, okay? So I would really like to applaud all the participants. As I said, you know, you guys gave out gems. You gave out so much information. I learned a lot, and there is no youth mandate without the youth on the table. So for me, I've taken that into context with even on how ILO will be supporting any of our programs. Will ensure that the youth are part and parcel of the processes. Thank you.
Well said, Mariam, and thank you for reminding us all that the budget is a political tool. And so we cannot talk about this without understanding the politics and seeing how then to effectively engage and work to ensure that youth are participating in a meaningful and effective way. Asante sana, Mariam. I would now like to call Dr. Barney Laseko to give us his final thoughts and closing remarks on behalf of Pilot for dialogue. Sorry.
Thank you, Namwaka. First of all, I should thank all who have participated in bringing us to where we are today. I, for one, have learned a lot. And the most striking point that I really learned today is the urban vis-a-vis rural distribution of the platforms where youth can participate in the budget process. We see that the rural people have a lot of access to their meetings, and we don't have anything planned for the youth in the urban areas. And this is historical, and we need to look at it again. My special appreciation would go to the less announced team today, the researchers, Madam Professor Chijoriga and the team. They've done quite a good job that created the foundation and brought us to this kind of technical discussions that is well informed and could be guided to see the things we have been managed to get from the youth who have participated today. Our organizers, we give to you our special thumbs up because Namwaka, you have been quite good in catching up. Actually, you managed to summarize every other speaker with really well pick the points on whatever they were giving us during the dialogue. Our presenters, key speakers, and panelists were quite superb, well informed. As Namwaka had quite well introduced them to us, we could see the seed that has been planted in the young people who we listened to today. And we really appreciate. And we look forward to seeing you more in these discussions and being able to bring the dialogue for the betterment of the future of this country. The participants have played quite a big role. They've kept us very alive on the chat room, as you have seen. We have a lot of work to do and see how we can bring more of the youth into the future discussions for the remaining study, at least one, and the future of the P44 after December. Maybe the youth engagement would be quite a big agenda that we may need to look for the future of the projects and the future dialogues which may be put forward as a suggestion for the sustainability of the work that we have done so far. Partners, all of you together, you've done quite a good job. I know what it is, being in the kitchen. I see all the emails flying. I see things coming in very late, people trying to participate and give all the inputs that have brought us to here, to the point where we are today. With that said, I think I wouldn't take too much of your time as we are limited by time. I would like to just thank you all on behalf of the team that has been working on this, and looking forward for further engagement in the near future. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And thank you for your kind words and for your appreciation of the work that we have put into this session. Thank you to all participants. I'd also like to thank, on a personal level, my silent partner, Omari, for her tireless work in the organizing of this. As Doctor was giving the final remarks, the policy brief that he mentioned that was produced by Pilot for Research and Dialogue, the link is available on the chat. So for those of you who have access to the chat, please download the brief. It has more information and knowledge on this topic. Also, in terms of resources, Hans has shared that there's a network of Tanzanian universities cooperating behind the CPRA at the business school at UDSM. That is where tertiary students can find training on policy research and dialogue. And I believe that there's also the MEEED program at the university business school, provides also training in this direction. So that's just some resources for you to take on. I believe Bram will be putting up the poll. Some participants who had logged on earlier prior to the session were able to do the poll. But for those who haven't yet done this poll, can you please kindly it takes no more than 2 minutes to fill out this poll that really helps us to understand the demographics of our participants and the people that we're reaching, but it also helps us to then better improve the quality of our sessions. Would also like and welcome your comments as to how to better run these sessions in the future, in terms of whether it's timing, access, content. We really would like and welcome your inputs. But I would also like to read the final comment, which I think is good. It really also summarizes some of the most of the issues that we discussed, where one participant, Martha, specifically says there's also a need for the youth to push and to inquire in the government offices to get the space to participate, but going as a group and not as individuals. So I think this also speaks to the power of the platforms Rahma talked about, the power of creating more spaces and groups that Dickinson talked about, the power of meaningful engagement, the power of finding spaces, opportunities to see entry points as to where and how youth can better be engaged, but also ensure that the engagement is meaningful and it is effective. With that, I think the poll is still going on. We also have this live on YouTube. I think the YouTube link was also shared in the chat earlier on up top. Or maybe if Bran can reshare that link again. This you can rewatch it and forward it and send the link to others to watch this session. So there's that access for you as well. So with that, I think the poll is still going on. Yes, Bran. And we thank you. And as Dr. Zaseko said, we should be having upcoming sessions from the good work that is coming out from Pilot for Research and Dialogue. And once we know more when those sessions will be, we will definitely be reaching out to you to rejoin our conversations, to rejoin these dialogues. And as most of you have said, and I think Dickinson was the one that really pointed to the importance of these dialogues, which once again is the heart of what Pilot for Research and Dialogue really pushes and promotes for. So with that, nawashukuru sana wote, karibuni tena, thank you, and have a fantastic day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Namwaka. It was great. Thank you for
Thanks,
the moderation.
Pascaline. Thanks, Pascaline.
Thank you, Pascaline, Alice. Well done.
Gracias, gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Namwaka. Bye-bye,
Asante sana.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. Laseko. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, especially Thekla, Dickinson, Rahma, Zildat. Thank you very much.